Hello and welcome to Studio O. I'm Ozola Cody, a content creator. I help to move your story forward, and today is our very first episode. We're going to talk about fighting for digital rights. I'm going to introduce you to Tracy Rosenberg. She's the Executive Director of Media Alliance, and she's on the front lines with her digital advocacy work. Digital advocacy involves using digital tools to influence people or institutions in order to achieve a stated positive experience. You may have seen this footage on your local news station, with a whistleblower coming forward to reveal that Facebook has engaged in predatorial-like business practices. As a result, over 55,000 people signed an online petition to remove Mark Zuckerberg from his position as Chief Executive Officer and majority stakeholder of Facebook. Not only did thousands sign a petition, but over 40 people participated in a protest outside of Mark Zuckerberg's home. I had the opportunity to stream with Tracy Rosenberg. Tracy was one of the head organizers of the Fire the Zuck campaign.
Well, the particular protest that you showed was called Fire Zuck. That's the hashtag that we used. And the reason that we use that hashtag is really all of the information that's come out in the Facebook papers that basically put the lie to everything that Mark Zuckerberg has been saying for years. Because what he's basically been saying is, yes, there are harmful impacts from things that Facebook is doing, but they were largely inadvertent. They weren't purposeful. They were sort of accidental collateral damage. We didn't really understand, and we're trying to fix it as fast as we can. And a number of people, and Frances Haugen is one, and Sophie Zhang is another, and there's a long line of whistleblowers that have come out, have been basically, showing us in papers that that's not the case. In fact, a lot of the harms that Facebook has been manifesting were deliberate. They were changes and choices that were made. They did internal studies. Those studies told them that specific changes to the algorithm would have certain specific consequences, and those consequences would be negative, and they would be negative particularly in very particular ways that significantly impacted marginalized and vulnerable communities. And Facebook took in all of that information, absorbed it, Zuckerberg personally, and he did it anyway for profit reasons. So basically, the line that had been put out to the public was a bunch of horse pucky. And when that happens, you sort of get to the end of the road and you have to sort of say, this person would not be in charge of this enormously powerful platform because they've made choices, and those choices have been bad. They've been inappropriate. They've been wrong. They've been evil. So that's why we sort of said, this guy, his time should be up. Now, the reality is, because he structured Facebook's stock offering in a particular way, he essentially can't be fired. But we wanted to sort of open up the conversation that he can walk away, that it's time for new leadership at Facebook, and that the period of time where the user community is going to sort of tolerate this sort of nonsense that we're being told by the current leadership of the company is an end.
In July of 2020, USA Today published an article titled Facebook Diversity Report: Efforts Still Failing Black and Hispanic Employees, Especially Women. In 2013, Facebook had 0 Black executives. In 2018, the most recent data available, it had 32. That's 3% of all executives. In that same time frame, the number of Facebook executives increased more than 6-fold. Does this lack of representation at an executive level result in discriminatory practices against people of color? Watch this video, also produced by USA Today.
It is more about them in people who may be their friends than the people who actually have been, championing the cause of actually not necessarily policing, but actually watching the way that people, speak to others and the type of language that people are using. I mean, I know people who have, had death threats right there in threads, not on inbox where it may be, shifty or whether or not they can or can't see it. Right there in thread, who had death threats, who have been called, racist names, use racist stereotypes against them right there in threads on their own posts, who then have turned around and had themselves be banned as opposed to people who are trolled.
And that part. So with all of these negative reports about Facebook, should we just stop using it?
We're kind of focused not so much on saying, kill this platform and start a different one, but very much on the fact that the users of the platform should have some ability to control what happens on these platforms and so that it works in our interests and not contrary to them. That in other words, it should be a conversation between users and platforms, not a one conversation where they make all the choices and we just have.
Now this does raise the question, should Facebook users have some digital equity when it comes to their contribution? I mean, Instagram, which is a Facebook product, issues payouts for certain content, but what content has the potential to earn? According to the BBC, 50% of Black users are reported to use Facebook to post about social justice issues that affect them. In the same BBC article, it mentions that the algorithms used by Facebook and Instagram often suppress content from Black users. How does this affect how content creators like myself get paid? And how are some Black content creators responding to this? Well, by creating social media sites like these. Melanin People, The Cookout, Fanbase, Bean, Truso, oh yeah, and Oz Collective Media. By supporting social media platforms created by people of color, we can also break up the monopoly currently secured by big tech. Personally, I have set boundaries when it comes to social media for my own productivity and mental well-being, but change happens from the bottom up. So here's how you can get involved.
Oh, totally. I mean, what people should understand, if I could say it in like 25 words or less, is basically that social media is an extraction process. What it's basically doing is taking our likes and clicks and engagements and friend lists and all of the things that we do on social media, which we're doing for ourselves, right? Because we want to be connected, and selling it to advertisers for the purpose of basically extracting our personal information for profit, for which we get very little back. So this is kind of, it's an exploitative, extractive process. And if we're going to give them all of our personal information so they can make money off of it, then we should be owed certain things in return, like algorithmic transparency, like moderation that doesn't expose us to things that are hateful and threatening and violent and upsetting. There's a number of sort of demands because they're making money off of us and we're not getting anything in return.
Right.
In terms of how people can get involved, the Facebook Users Union has a website at facebookusers.org. And if people want to sign up and get on the mailing list, we will notify you. We try very hard not only to be digital activists, petitions and sign-on letters, but also to do things in person. We very much wanted, for example, to send our message to Mark Zuckerberg in person. So we lined up in front of his house and we honked our horns and we protested and we tried to bring it sort of off the computer screen into the real world. So if people have an interest in that, they should sign up. In addition, there's an ongoing process of periodic Facebook logouts. We just had one from November 10th to November 13th. And basically, we ask people not to cut the cord completely, but just to step away for a couple of days to sort of exercise the power to make it clear as we can walk away. And if we don't get the changes that we're looking for, that walk away can become permanent. And that is at the facebooklockout.com. As I said, we just had one on November 10th that at least, I think, 54,000 plus people participated in. And my expectation is that some more will be following in the future. So you can participate in the next one.
Thanks for hanging out with us today. I hope you found this conversation to be enlightening, helpful, informative. Either way, make sure that you like, share, or subscribe if you like this content, and we'll see you next time.